They sent one human? Captain Vork laughed so hard his secondary breathing sacs inflated. One. And she's missing an arm? Oh, this is just perfect. I watched my superior officer through all three of my eye stalks, trying not to show my concern. Humans had a reputation, after all. Sir, perhaps we should still maintain caution. The records from the Tarvosi conflict suggest. Quiet, Lieutenant Zik. Vork waved a dismissive tentacle at me. The Tarvosi were weak. We Craxians are warriors born of the harshest environments. Besides, he pointed at the monitor showing the lone human female walking across our landing bay. Look at her. One arm. One. My fellow officers joined in the laughter, their mandibles clicking in that irritating way that always sent shivers down my dorsal plates. But I couldn't laugh. Something about this human stride confident, measured, purposeful made my stomach pouches constrict. Lieutenant Zik, since you are so concerned, Captain Vork's voice dripped with mockery, you can be her. What do humans call it? Babysitter? Guide? Whatever, just keep her contained and away from anything important. I saluted, pressing my front appendages together. Yes, Captain. And Zik? Vork narrowed his central eye. Don't mess this up. The High Command wants to study this human before we begin full invasion preparations. Earth thinks sending this ambassador will buy them time. We will give them the illusion of diplomacy while we finish positioning our fleet. Understood, sir. I hurried down to the landing bay, reviewing what little information we had on the human. Her name was Audrey Winters, age 34, former engineer and soldier. She'd lost her left arm in some battle 3 years ago. And now, for reasons I couldn't fathom, Earth had sent her as their sole representative to our world. The human stood in the center of the bay, a small bag slung over her shoulder. Her missing limb wasn't immediately obvious. The left sleeve of her dark blue uniform was neatly pinned up. Her hair was the color of our planet's red soil, cut short against her scalp. When she turned toward me, her eyes were alert, calculating green like the toxic pools in our southern hemisphere. Lieutenant Zik, I presume? She asked. Her voice surprisingly steady for someone facing an 8-foot-tall alien with chitinous armor and mandibles that could snap her remaining arm off. How did you know? I clicked my mandibles in surprise. She tapped her ear, translators working perfectly. Also, you are the only one who doesn't look like you are about to burst out laughing. I felt my neck frills flush with embarrassment. I apologize for my colleague's behavior, Ambassador Winters. Call me Audrey, she said, extending her right hand. And don't worry about them. I'm used to being underestimated. I stared at her outstretched appendage, unsure what to do. It's a handshake, she explained patiently. Customary human greeting. You take my hand in yours and we move them up and down. Cautiously, I wrapped my front manipulator around her much smaller hand. Her skin was warm and soft compared to our exoskeletons. Perfect, she said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Now, where can I set up my equipment? I will need approximately 20 square meters of space and access to your power grid. Equipment? Power access? I clicked nervously. I was not informed. It's all in the diplomatic agreement, Audrey said, pulling a tablet from her bag. Section 7, Paragraph 3, the Earth Ambassador shall be provided adequate facilities to maintain necessary technical equipment for the duration of the diplomatic mission. I scanned the document on her screen. She was right. I will need to consult with Captain Vork. Of course. Her smile grew wider. I'm sure he will be very accommodating given how seriously he's taking this mission. Sarcasm. Definitely sarcasm. Captain Vork was not pleased. What kind of equipment? He demanded. Wah. She wouldn't specify, sir, just said it was standard issue for Earth diplomats. Vork paced, his heavy footfalls making the deck plates vibrate. Fine. Give her the old storage bay in Section 5. It's isolated from critical systems. And have Security Chief Trax set up surveillance. Yes, sir. And Zik? Don't let her out of your sight. The storage bay was dusty and clearly hadn't been used in cycles. Audrey surveyed it with those unsettling green eyes, nodding slowly. "This will do nicely," she said, setting her bag down. "Very nicely indeed. What exactly will you be setting up?" I asked. "Oh, this and that. Communication array, some personal items." She shrugged, a curiously human gesture. "I need to be comfortable during my stay." "How long until we reach your homeworld?" 3 rotations, I answered. "Excellent. Just enough time." There was that smile again, the one that made my exoskeleton feel too tight. Over the next rotation, I watched as Audrey unpacked her diplomatic equipment. Most of it made sense: communication devices, holographic displays, what appeared to be recreational items. But some components seemed odd: power converters, small fabrication units, and several containers of metallic substances. "What's that for?" I asked, pointing to a container filled with what looked like silver liquid. "This?" Audrey held it up to the light. "Programmable matter. Latest technology from Earth. Quite versatile." "And that?" I gestured toward a device she'd been assembling. "Neural interface. Standard issue." She attached 2 more components with practiced ease. For someone with 1 arm, she was remarkably dexterous. "You seem knowledgeable about technology for a diplomat," I observed. Audrey laughed, a sound like water running over rocks. "On Earth, we believe in multiple skill sets. I was an engineer before I became a soldier, and a soldier before I became a diplomat. Life takes unexpected turns, Lieutenant." "Like losing an arm?" The question escaped before I could stop myself. She paused, looking directly at me. "Exactly like that." "If you don't mind me asking." Explosion. Insurgent attack. I was trying to disarm an improvised device. She tapped her pinned sleeve. "It disarmed me instead." "Our medical technology could probably construct a replacement," I offered. "Craxian prosthetics are quite advanced." That strange smile again. "Thank you, Lieutenant, but I have adapted." By the second rotation, Audrey had transformed the storage bay into a functional workspace. Captain Vork had checked in twice, each time making barely concealed comments about the human's disability. Each time, Audrey responded with perfect politeness and that same unnerving smile. "Your captain's quite the character," she remarked after Vork's second visit. "He's dedicated to the Craxian Empire," I said diplomatically. "Is that what we are calling it?" Audrey raised an eyebrow. "And what about you, Lieutenant Zick? Are you also dedicated to this empire that's planning to invade my planet?" My neck frills extended in shock. "What? No, we are not." "Please." She waved her hand dismissively. "I wasn't born yesterday. Your fleet movements near our outer colonies?" The sudden interest in diplomatic relations after centuries of isolation? The way your captain can barely contain his contempt? I know an invasion preparation when I see one. I stood frozen, mandibles clicking nervously. "Don't worry," she continued, turning back to her work. "I'm not offended. It's what expanding empires do. The strong consume the weak. It's practically a universal constant." "Then why are you here?" I finally asked. "If you know we are planning to annihilate my species?" Audrey finished, connecting 2 pieces of technology with a soft click. "Let's just say Earth wanted to get a closer look at Craxian technology. And I volunteered." "You are a spy?" My voice rose to a pitch I didn't know I could achieve. Audrey laughed again. "I'm whatever Earth needs me to be, Lieutenant. Just like you are whatever the Craxian Empire needs you to be." She glanced up at me, though I suspect we might have more in common than either of our superiors would like. Before I could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. The lighting shifted to emergency red. "What's happening?" Audrey asked, suddenly alert. "I don't know." I moved to the communication panel. "Command deck, this is Lieutenant Zick." Status report? Captain Vork's voice crackled through. The pirates. Zoltaran raiders. Battle stations. I felt my blood run cold. Zoltaran pirates were notorious throughout the galaxy, vicious, merciless, and always looking for advanced technology to steal. And we were transporting the newest Craxian weapons prototypes. Stay here, I ordered Audrey. Lock the door behind me. Wait, she called as I turned to leave. I can help. How? By diplomatic negotiation? I didn't mean to sound cruel, but fear made my words sharp. She didn't flinch. I was a combat engineer, lieutenant, and pirates are pirates, no matter what planet they are from. The ship rocked violently, throwing me against the wall. Boarding. They were already boarding. Fine, I clicked, mandibles tight with stress. But stay behind me. We hurried through corridors filled with panicked crew members. Another explosion rocked the ship, and the lights flickered. Emergency bulkheads began to close. They are targeting our power systems, I explained as we ran. Standard Zoltaran tactic. Cut power, disable defenses, then sweep through and take whatever they want. And whoever they want, Audrey added grimly. Slave labor, right? I nodded. Particularly species with manipulative appendages. Like humans, she muttered. And Craxians. We reached the armory just as another explosion hit. I stumbled, catching myself against the wall. When I looked up, 3 Zoltarans stood before us, tall, spindly creatures with gray skin and 4 arms each. Well, the leader hissed through translator tech. A Craxian officer, and what is this? A human? Far from home, little one. I moved to shield Audrey, but she stepped forward. Gentlemen, she said calmly, you have made a serious mistake. The pirates laughed, a high-pitched sound that hurt my hearing organs. The mistake is yours, human, but you will fetch a good price. Exotic specimens always do. Last chance, Audrey warned. Her voice had changed harder, colder. Leave this ship now. The leader reached for her with one of his 4 arms. I think not. What happened next occurred so quickly I barely processed it. Audrey's pinned left sleeve suddenly unfolded. Metal and light erupted from where her missing limb should have been. Not a prosthetic, nothing so simple. This was something else entirely. The sleeve ripped away, revealing a complex mechanical arm that seemed to flow like liquid metal, reshaping itself as it moved. It extended, grabbed the Zoltaran's reaching limb, and twisted. The sound of breaking bones echoed in the corridor. The pirate screamed as Audrey's mechanical arm reconfigured again, forming what looked like a weapon barrel. A pulse of energy shot out, hitting the second pirate square in the chest. He dropped without a sound. The third pirate turned to run, but the mechanical arm extended, impossibly long now, wrapping around his legs and yanking him back. Now, Audrey said conversationally, as if discussing meal options, you are going to tell me exactly how many of you are on this ship, where they are, and what your command codes are. The pirate gibbered in terror, staring at the mechanical arm that now pressed against his throat. Lieutenant, Audrey called without looking back at me. Would you be so kind as to access the weapons locker? I believe we will need to arm ourselves properly. I couldn't move, transfixed by the scene before me. Her arm, that magnificent, terrifying arm, wasn't just a prosthetic. It was a weapons system more advanced than anything I'd seen in the Craxian military. Today, Lieutenant, Audrey prompted, a hint of amusement in her voice. I shook myself out of my stupor and opened the armory. What is that? I finally managed to ask, pointing at her mechanical limb. This? Audrey glanced at the arm as if just noticing it. The metal surface rippled, reshaping into a more humanoid form, though still clearly mechanical. Just a little something I built after losing the original. Programmable matter integrated with neural interfaces and quantum power cells. It's my own design. But it's better than the original? She flexed the mechanical fingers. That was the idea. Why replace what you have lost with something identical when you can improve upon it? The ship rocked again with another explosion. We can discuss advanced prosthetics later, Audrey said, her mechanical arm reconfiguring back into what looked like a weapon. Right now we have pirates to deal with. Why are you helping us? I asked, suddenly suspicious. If you know we plan to invade Earth. Let's just say I have a personal interest in Zoltaran pirate technology, she replied with that unsettling smile. And besides, Lieutenant Zik, I'm starting to like you. Now, shall we go save your ship? As we moved through the corridors, fighting our way toward the command deck, I couldn't shake the feeling that the Craxian Empire had made a terrible mistake. We hadn't invited a disabled diplomat aboard our ship. We'd invited a predator. And something told me that by the time Audrey Winters was done, it wouldn't just be her arm that was better, stronger, and more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. It would be all of humanity. The battle against the Zoltaran pirates lasted 6 grueling hours. 6 hours of screaming alarms, flickering lights, and the sickening sound of weapon fire ricocheting off metal walls. 6 hours during which I watched a one-armed human female systematically dismantle an entire pirate boarding party with nothing but her impossible mechanical arm and a terrifying level of combat efficiency. Behind you, I shouted as another pirate lunged from a side corridor. Without even turning her head, Audrey's mechanical arm extended backward, reconfigured into what looked like a 3-pronged claw, and seized the pirate by the throat. The Zoltaran gurgled, dropping his weapon. Thanks for the heads up, Audrey said casually, as if we were discussing lunch options rather than fighting for our lives. That makes 17. Their boarding craft couldn't have held more than 20. 22, I corrected, checking the ship's internal sensors on my wrist device. 5 remaining, currently cornered in the engine room. Audrey nodded, her mechanical arm shifting back into a more humanoid configuration, though I noticed it still hummed with energy. Your Captain Vork is with them? Yes, they are holding him hostage. Convenient. She flashed that disturbing smile again. Let's go introduce ourselves properly. As we made our way toward the engine room, stepping over the bodies of fallen pirates, I couldn't help but ask the question that had been burning in my mind since her arm first revealed itself. Why didn't Earth send an army? With technology like yours. Who says they didn't? Audrey interrupted, her green eyes glinting in the emergency lighting. Lieutenant Zik, what's more efficient, sending 1,000 soldiers with conventional weapons or 1 soldier with the right tool? But surely more humans with arms like yours would. Mine is a prototype, she explained, flexing the mechanical fingers. The only one of its kind. For now. The way she said those last 2 words sent shivers down my spine. We reached the engine room door. Inside, according to the ship's sensors, were the 5 remaining pirates and Captain Vork. I moved to input the override code, but Audrey gently pushed me aside. Allow me, she said. Her mechanical arm transformed again, extending thin filaments that slipped into the control panel. The door's locking mechanism clicked and whirred. How did you? Universal interface architecture, she replied. Most species develop very similar security systems. It's a funny quirk of convergent technological evolution. The door slid open, revealing the engine room. Captain Vork was on his knees, a Zoltaran weapon pressed against his primary breathing sac. 4 other pirates stood in defensive positions around the room. That's far enough, barked the pirate leader, pressing his weapon harder against Vork. My captain's neck frills were fully extended in fear, his mandibles clicking rapidly. Here's what's going to happen, Audrey announced, stepping forward with such confidence that even I felt compelled to obey her. You are going to release the captain, surrender your weapons, and return to your vessel. In exchange, I let you live. The pirates laughed, that same high-pitched sound that hurt my hearing organs. You are outnumbered, human, the leader sneered. And your little mechanical toy doesn't scare us. It's not meant to scare you, Audrey replied pleasantly. It's meant to beat you. There's a difference. Before anyone could react, her arm transformed again, this time into something that looked less like a weapon and more like a transmitter. A pulse of energy emanated from it, invisible except for a slight distortion in the air. Every Zoltaran in the room suddenly screamed, clutching their heads and dropping to the floor. Even their weapons seemed to malfunction, sparking and powering down. "What did you do?" I gasped. "Targeted electromagnetic pulse," Audrey explained, walking calmly into the room. "It affects their neural implants and weapon systems simultaneously. Quite painful, but temporary." She knelt beside the pirate leader, who was writhing on the floor. "Well, mostly temporary." Captain Vork scrambled to his feet, his usual arrogance nowhere to be seen. He stared at Audrey with a mixture of fear and awe. You saved my ship," he stammered. "Don't mention it," Audrey replied with a dismissive wave of her human hand. "Consider it a goodwill gesture from Earth." Her mechanical arm reconfigured again, this time extending tiny filaments that attached to the neural implant visible at the base of the pirate leader's skull. "What are you doing now?" I asked. "Downloading," she said simply. "Every good diplomatic mission involves cultural exchange, wouldn't you agree?" Within minutes, the remaining pirates were secured in the brig, and Captain Vork had called an emergency meeting of his senior officers. I stood at my usual position, 2 steps behind the captain's chair, while Audrey was given the honored guest position at the table. Her mechanical arm had returned to a humanoid appearance, though I noticed she no longer bothered with the pretense of pinning her sleeve. "The human ambassador saved our ship," Vork announced, though the words seemed to cause him physical pain. "And for that, we owe her our gratitude." Audrey inclined her head slightly. "Just doing my part for interspecies cooperation, Captain." Nevertheless, Vork continued, "Our mission remains unchanged. We will reach the homeworld tomorrow, where Ambassador Winters will meet with the High Command for diplomatic discussions." The way he emphasized those last 2 words made it clear that nothing about these discussions would be diplomatic. The invasion plans would proceed. Earth's fate was sealed. But Audrey just smiled that unsettling smile and said, "I look forward to it." Later, as I escorted her back to her quarters, I found myself torn between loyalty to my species and a growing respect for this human. "They are still going to invade your planet," I said quietly when we were alone in the corridor. "Nothing has changed." "Everything has changed, Lieutenant Zick," Audrey replied. "Your captain just doesn't know it yet." "What do you mean?" She stopped walking and turned to face me. "Tell me, what do you think of the Craxian Empire's expansion policies?" The question caught me off guard. Questioning imperial policy was not something Craxians did, at least not openly. "I serve the Empire," I said carefully. "That's not what I asked." Her green eyes seemed to see right through my exoskeleton. "Do you believe conquering other species, destroying their civilizations, and exploiting their resources is the right thing to do?" I glanced around nervously, though we were alone in the corridor. "Such questions are dangerous." "So is meeting humans," Audrey said with a small laugh. "Yet here we are." We continued walking in silence until we reached her quarters. Before entering, she turned to me again. "Lieutenant, when we reach your homeworld tomorrow, things will change dramatically. I'd like you to be on the right side of that change." "What do you mean?" "Just keep your eyes open," she said cryptically. "And remember that not every invasion goes according to plan." That night I couldn't sleep. Audrey's words kept replaying in my mind. What did she mean? What was she planning? And perhaps most disturbing of all, why did I find myself hoping she would succeed? The next morning we entered orbit around Crax Prime, the heart of the Empire. From space it looked beautiful, swirling clouds over red continents and deep purple oceans. Well, as we prepared for descent, Captain Vork pulled me aside. "Watch her closely," he hissed. "High Command wants her intact for the initial meeting, but afterward, well, that arm of hers is going to become property of Craxian military research." I felt my stomach pouches constrict. And the human? Vork's mandibles clicked in what passed for a Craxian shrug. "Specimen storage, probably." or disposal. Depends on how cooperative she is. The landing was smooth, and soon we were disembarking onto the primary military platform of Vector City, the imperial capital. A delegation of high-ranking officers waited for us, their ceremonial armor glinting in the red sunlight. Audrey stepped out of the ship and paused, taking a deep breath of Craxian air. Our atmosphere contained more sulfur than Earth's, and I worried it might be uncomfortable for her. "Smells like opportunity," she remarked, catching my concerned look. The High Commander of the Craxian forces, Admiral Pex, stepped forward. Nearly 10 feet tall and covered in battle scars, he was an imposing figure even to other Craxians. "So this is Earth's representative?" he rumbled, looking down at Audrey. "Smaller than I expected." "But no less dangerous for it," Audrey replied smoothly. "Thank you for receiving me, Admiral. I bring greetings from Earth." "Yes, yes," Pex waved a dismissive tentacle. "We will observe the diplomatic niceties in the Grand Hall. Follow me." Well, as we walked through Vector City toward the massive governmental complex at its center, I watched Audrey carefully. Her eyes darted everywhere, taking in details, assessing, analyzing. Her mechanical arm remained in its humanoid configuration, but I noticed subtle shifts in its surface, almost like it was tasting the air. "Impressive architecture," she commented as we approached the Grand Hall, a towering structure of metal and stone that had stood for 10,000 years. "Your species builds to last. The Empire is eternal," Admiral Pex intoned the traditional response. "Nothing is eternal, Admiral," Audrey replied with that same unsettling smile. "Change is the only constant in the universe." The Grand Hall was filled with hundreds of Craxian officials and military officers. They all stared as our small procession made its way to the central platform where the High Council, the 12 oldest and most powerful Craxians, waited on elevated perches. "The human representative will approach," announced the first counselor, her voice amplified by the hall's perfect acoustics. Audrey walked forward alone, her stride confident, her mechanical arm gleaming under the hall's lighting. I remained with Captain Vork and the other officers from our ship, watching from the sidelines. "Earth sends one representative?" The first counselor's tone made it clear what she thought of this decision. "Earth sends exactly what is needed, Counselor," Audrey replied, her voice equally clear throughout the vast chamber. "No more, no less." "And what does Earth offer the Craxian Empire?" asked another counselor. "Resources? Technology? Surrender?" A ripple of clicking mandibles, Craxian laughter spread through the hall. "Information," Audrey said simply. "Earth offers information. What information could your primitive species possibly offer us?" scoffed the first counselor. Audrey's mechanical arm began to transform, extending upward and outward. Several security officers moved forward, weapons raised, but Admiral Pex held up a tentacle, curiosity overriding caution. The arm expanded, forming what looked like a projection device. Light erupted from it, forming a three-dimensional image in the air above the Grand Hall. It showed the Craxian fleet positions near Earth space, but with one crucial difference: nearly half the ships were highlighted in red, with damage indicators flashing. "This information," Audrey said calmly. "Your invasion fleet has already been engaged and suffered significant losses." Chaos erupted in the hall. Counselors demanded explanations. Military officers shouted orders into communication devices. Admiral Pex stormed toward Audrey, rage evident in his posture. "What is the meaning of this?" he roared. "How dare you?" "That's not all," Audrey continued, her voice somehow cutting through the din. The projection changed, showing a microscopic view of what looked like tiny machines. "These nanites were deployed throughout your fleet 3 weeks ago. They have been dormant until now, awaiting my signal." The hall fell silent. "What signal?" the first counselor asked, her voice no longer imperious but wary. Audrey smiled. "The one I just sent when we entered your atmosphere." Her mechanical arm shifted again, the projection changing to show real-time footage from space. Craxian ships were powering down, weapons systems going offline. Your entire defense grid is now under Earth control, Audrey announced, as are your planetary defense systems, and your communication networks, and your power distribution systems. Impossible. Admiral Pex bellowed. No technology could. My arm isn't just a personal prosthetic, Admiral, Audrey interrupted. It's a control node for the most advanced nanotechnology ever developed. Those pirates who attacked Captain Vork's ship? They weren't a coincidence. They were delivering the final package of nanites I needed right into your homeworld's atmosphere. I felt a chill run through me. The pirates, on the convenient attack, the way she'd interfaced with their neural implants. It had all been planned. You are bluffing, the first counselor declared, but her neck frills were fully extended in fear. Am I? Audrey's mechanical arm transformed again, and suddenly every light in the grand hall went out. A moment later they came back on. That was just a demonstration. The next shutdown will be permanent if necessary. Admiral Pex drew his ceremonial weapon, a plasma blade that had been in his family for generations. I will end this now. He lunged at Audrey, but her mechanical arm extended with impossible speed, wrapping around the blade. The plasma energy sputtered and died. The thing about losing a limb, Audrey said conversationally, as if she weren't facing down the most decorated warrior in Craxian history, is that it forces you to adapt, to innovate, to become better than you were. Her arm reconfigured again, releasing the Admiral but forming what was clearly a weapon pointed at his head. Humanity lost much in our early wars. But each loss made us stronger. When you targeted our colonies, killed our people, you thought you were weakening us. She looked around the hall, meeting the gaze of each council member. You were actually helping us evolve. What do you want? The first counselor finally asked, defeat evident in her voice. A partnership, Audrey replied, her arm transforming back into its humanoid shape. Earth doesn't want to destroy the Craxian Empire. We want to transform it. Together we could be something greater than either of us could be alone. And if we refuse? Admiral Pex growled. Then I shut down every system on this planet, one by one until you reconsider. Audrey's voice was matter of fact. But I'd prefer not to. Destruction is easy. Creation is harder, and more rewarding. The first counselor conferred briefly with the other council members before turning back to Audrey. We will consider your proposal, she said stiffly. Excellent. Audrey smiled. Lieutenant Zick will serve as my liaison during these discussions. I nearly fell over in shock as every eye in the hall turned to me. Lieutenant Zick has demonstrated the ability to see beyond cultural limitations, Audrey continued, a necessary trait for the future we are building. 3 days later, I stood beside Audrey on the balcony of what had once been Admiral Pex's personal quarters, now serving as the Earth Embassy. Below us, Vector City continued its daily activities, though now with human technical advisors visible among the Craxian population. You planned this from the beginning, I said. Not a question, but a statement. Earth planned it, Audrey corrected. I was just the delivery system. But why you? Why someone who had lost an arm? Audrey looked down at her mechanical limb, which gleamed in the red sunlight. Because sometimes, Lieutenant Zick, what we lose isn't what defines us. It's what we build to replace it. She turned to face me, and for the first time I saw no hint of that disturbing smile. Only honesty. The Craxian Empire lost its way generations ago, becoming focused on conquest rather than creation. Earth could have destroyed you for that. She gestured with her mechanical arm toward the city below. Instead, we chose to help you rebuild, to become something better. Like your arm, I said, finally understanding. Exactly like my arm. Her smile returned, but it was different now, hopeful rather than unsettling. Sometimes the replacement is stronger than the original ever was. As the twin suns of Crax Prime began to set, casting long shadows across the city, I realized that Audrey Winters hadn't just taken our planet. She'd given us a future. And just like her arm, that future would be better, stronger, and more magnificent than anything we could have built on our own.